So during his famous Red speech a couple of weeks ago, Joe Biden labeled his political opponents domestic extremists, terrorists who threaten the existence of our nation. Now, you may have written off that claim as the rantings of a doddering old fool, but this is the President of the United States who has the full mechanics of the largest bureaucracy in the history of the world behind him. So now the FBI is working hard to bolster those false claims. It's opened domestic terrorism investigations all over the country, most of them against innocent people. Now we have proof that many of these investigations are entirely fraudulent. They're political. This is so wrong. This should not be happening. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio just sent a letter to the FBI director, Christopher Wray, who should be ashamed of himself, outlining the evidence. The evidence comes from a whistleblower within the FBI. According to that whistleblower, the FBI is breaking its own procedures to create the illusion that new domestic extremism cases are popping up all over the United States. In reality, virtually all of these cases are about January 6th, which was a nonviolent election justice protest and covered, of course, by the Constitution of the United States, excluding the people who committed vandalism. But you have a right to assemble if you want. So the FBI's Washington office is overseeing these investigations, these domestic extremist investigations. The whistleblower said that, quote, the manipulative case file practice creates false and misleading crime statistics. Instead of hundreds of investigations stemming from a single black swan incident at the Capitol, January 6th, FBI and DOJ officials point to significant increases in domestic extremism and terrorism around the United States. So they're lying with numbers, just like they did under Corona. This is fraud. And now it's occupying a huge percentage of the FBI's time at the very moment we just had 2 million people whose identities we can't verify waltz into our country. Now, the whistleblower says he was told that, quote, child sexual abuse material investigations were no longer an FBI priority and should be referred to local law enforcement agencies. Oh, germane to the last subject we addressed in the open tonight. You'll notice they're downplaying the importance of child sex crimes. Interesting. So we reached out to the FBI for comment, and a spokesman told us, quote, the threat posed by domestic violent extremists is persistent, evolving, and deadly. End quote. Of course, they can't point to any deadliness. Ashley Babbitt, oh wait, she was killed. Congressman Jim Jordan represents Ohio and is the member of Congress who has these documents. Congressman, we really appreciate your coming on and telling us about this.
Thank you. You bet.
So how do you assess what the whistleblower has told you?
Well, we think he's being straightforward. We think he's as honest. We think he's a brave guy for coming forward. And I think the way I view it in my mind is, Tucker, they're juicing the numbers and they're cooking the books. And they are so focused on this, they're willing to pull agents from child trafficking cases to foster this narrative that you talked about, that Joe Biden in front of Independence Hall with the red background, clenched fist, talking about half the country being extremists. So remember, we've had previous whistleblowers who came to us and said that they were being pressured to label cases as domestic violent extremism. This whistleblower came forward and talked to us about how they're cooking the books, making the numbers seem that there are cases all over the country, when in fact they're all related to January 6th. And now what's happened today, we learned that this newest whistleblower has been suspended from his job. So there's retaliation going against this guy for coming forward and telling us what's going on.
So the administration is doing this because there's really no one to push back. I mean, corporate America is completely on their side, the entertainment business, the media, and of course the entire Congress. If Democrats think they're going to win both houses, keep both houses, they just announced today we're going to keep both houses.
Yeah, I don't
if that were to happen, well, I hope it doesn't, of course, but if it were to happen,
yeah,
it feels like they would double down and start putting a lot of people in jail.
No, that's why this election in 50 days, Tucker, is so darn important. The way you send a message is put Republicans in charge, and then what we have to do is get tough. We got to be committed to getting the truth to the American people. We got to be committed to any and every remedy we can come up. Nothing should be off the table when it comes to reining in a political Justice Department, which everyone knows is now the case. I mean, think about the last 6 weeks. Joe Biden raided the home of a former president, took the phone of a sitting member of Congress. The Inspector General at the Justice Department assisted in imaging the phone. He's supposed to be the independent oversight of the Justice Department. And oh, by the way, he also signed legislation which is going to unleash 87,000 IRS agents to come harass we, the taxpayer. That happened in 6 weeks, for goodness sake. So yeah, this election is critical when it comes to America's freedoms, liberties, and the Bill of Rights.
I think you're right. I'm not a huge booster of the Republican Party or anything, but I'm certainly rooting for them this time. That's for sure. I think this is, when you put it that way, this is really scary. And I appreciate you coming on tonight. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.